Hello everybody, Grizzly Pig here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down my Dagger spec Vampire Nightblade build. In today's video we're going to look at the gear, the traits, the enchants, we're going to look at the skills, what food we're using, what Mundus stones, etc. We're going to be having a look at the stats we get from all this, as well as going over a quick rotation engagement rundown as well. So let's get straight into it. So let's have a look at the gear. What we have got to start with is the monster set helm, slime crawler's helmet here. We're going just for one piece because we want the extra crit chance that this gives us. It's the best monster piece for crit chance if you just want that one piece. So take that definitely. You can never go wrong with slime crawlers. Then we're just going to have a look at this because this is the other one piece set that we have as well. One of the most important things for this build, or at least the most pinnacle thing of this, it gives us all of our buffs. This is the Oaken Soul Ring. Amazing, amazing piece. And the great thing about this is that it comes in technically legendary quality. It's mythic, but it's the same stats as legendary. And once you've got this, you can transmute this to all of your characters at a cost of just 25 crystals because it's the only piece in its set, so it is really cheap. Right, moving on, we then have the 5-piece sets. Now, I've got 3 of them to show you. I'll show you the 2 I'm wearing, and I'll show you the other one that you can slot in as well. It's situational and kind of like what should you want to do. You can tailor it to however you want to play as well. These are options. So the first set I've got here on 5 pieces of armor, as you can see, is the Ashen Grip set. This is going to give us a bit of HP to help us survive. Not much, but it's there anyway, so that's good. Extra weapon and spell damage. We get a bit more crit. And also the 5-piece is going to give us an upfront burst of flame damage, which scales on your weapon or spell power. So this is a really amazing piece, and it is on a 4-second cooldown, which I think is overpowered because it's up as soon as if you have to duck out of a fight and come back in again, the chances are this is going to be back up again, and it does really good damage up front as well. Right, let's move on to the second 5-piece set. So we are also running Stygians, and we're going to run this on the jewelry, the daggers and the shoulders, and that gives us a 5 set there. So this 5-piece set gives us 2 lots of weapon and spell damage. It gives us some penetration, which is amazing in PvP. You can never have too much penetration. And the 5-piece, I love this, when you leave sneak or invisibility while in combat, your weapon and spell damage is increased for 15 seconds. 356 extra right there, and this pairs so amazingly with being a vampire as well, so it's a great set. Right, let's talk about the third 5-piece set that you could use. I recommend slotting this in for maybe the Ashen Grip. This is if you've got some targets where you need a bit more penetration. We have Stun's Favor set. So here we got some extra weapon and spell damage. Again, great stuff there. 2 lots of that. We've got some penetration on the second, the 3-item piece there. And then the 5-item set piece is basically added penetration against off-balance targets for 10 seconds. An extra just over 5,000 penetration. So that's really going to help us bust through people's armor. This is an amazing set as well. And these 5 sets, these are just the 3 I'm running now, messing about with. There's obviously some other great sets that will work with this. This is not Doctrine. You can run Orders Wrath if you want to, and a bunch of other sets that I just cannot think of off the top of my head. Pillar of Nirn, go for it. But these ones are great. I love the Ashen Grip just because it's always upfront damage. You can never go wrong with that. I always like sets that do upfront damage like that. Right, so that is pretty much the gear. Let's talk about the enchantment. So on the armor here, we're going to go for a mix of stamina and health. You can also use the special tri-stat enchantments if you want as well on your main pieces. They would be really good because you do use magicka with this build, but this is a stamina build predominantly. But if you do run out of magicka, that's not good in this build. So having those tri ones is actually not bad. It's just I haven't put them on these because they're expensive and I'm a bit broke at the minute. So we have HP on 2 of the pieces here and stamina on the other 5. You can mix and match how you want depending on your play style. If you want to be more tanky, go more HP. If you want to do more damage and have more sustain with the stamina and do more roll dodging, go for more stamina. So there's that. And then we're going to look at the jewelry. So we have the truly superb glyph of physical harm on all the jewelry pieces here. This is going to give us extra weapon and spell damage. It's going to scale really nicely with the Ashen Grip set. And give us a little bit of stamina recovery, but just ignore that. That's not a big deal. And then on the weapons here, so on the main hand weapon, we have got flame damage. And on the offhand weapon, we have poison damage. Very simple. Right, okay. So moving on from enchantments, we're going to look at the traits. So we're going for, on the armor, divines and well fitted. I like well fitted because it reduces the cost of your roll dodge. But you can go divines all the way if you want to. There's also some other great traits as well. Impenetrable is a great trait too. So really, if you have a mix of these, you can't go wrong. If you want to get more pure upfront damage, however, you probably are going to most likely just want to go for divines. And again, that scales with your Munderstone. So it depends what Munderstone you're taking, what sort of stats you want to hit. So moving on to the jewelry, we're going for Bloodthirsty. I just like this a lot, although it's not going to help us on our first hit on a full target enemy. It's such a great trait that I could not go for anything other than this on the jewelry. And a lot of time we're going to be jumping in mid-fight as well when a target is less than 90% or way less than 90% as well. And you're going to do crazy damage to them and you're going to really flip the fight in your favour with this trait. You put it on all 3 jewelry pieces, you will notice a difference if you didn't have it before. Promise you. And then looking at the weapons, so on the main hand weapon here we have Sharpen. This is going to give us extra penetration. It's a really, really great trait. But you can also go for Precise if you want to and you need more crit. We are running a build where we get a guaranteed crit when we come out of our invisibility anyway when we attack someone. So for me, I've gone for a little bit less crit rate. You can also run Nirnhoned as well. It's just an upfront increase in your weapon damage by 15%, increases the weapon's damage by 15%. That's a really good one as well. But for me, I'm going for penetration here. So that is the gear. That's it. So let's move on to the next piece now. But before we do, I'd like to have a look at the armor class we are using. Predominantly, we are using stamina armor here, except for our headpiece, which is going to be light. And I will talk about that as we go to look at our skills in the passives in a minute. So we are going to cover skills now. So first of all, we're going to look at the hotbar and look at our active skills. We are using Piercing Mark here. This is actually a flex slot, but right now I'm loving this ability. Reduces your opponent's physical and spell resistance by nearly 6,000 for a minute this lasts. This is great on any enemy, but especially tanky enemies that have got more armor. You're really mitigating their armor there. You're also going to use this as well to as an anti-invisibility tool. When you jump on another Nightblade or you deal big damage to them, the chances are, if they know what they're doing, they're going to pop their disguise straight away. As long as you keep this on them, it only lasts 3 seconds, so you will have to pop this mid-fight usually. If you keep this on them, you'll still be able to carry on doing damage to them. They won't be able to go invisible, at least not from you. You can still see them while you've got this on them. So next up we have in the Shadow Tree, we are using Surprise Attack, and this is your spammable. It does great damage, applies a Sundered effect, and this is also going to proc your Stygian set. This ability is going to set them off balance if you are on the enemy's flank, and it's also a guaranteed crit every 4 seconds, so it's a really amazing ability. Use this with a light attack weave and you are going to do some nice damage with this. Next up we have in Assassination Tree, Ambush. This ability is our gap closer. We can use this to initiate a fight from invisibility if we want to. It's not the best way to initiate a fight because it's not the biggest burst damage you can get, but you can use it if you want to. What else is great about this as well is you can chase down opponents that are just trying to get away from you with this ability. Flag carriers or people that are on the back foot with half life, you can finish people off with this no problem. I find myself using this all the time. Amazing ability. It's going to also affect your opponent with minor vulnerability as well. This increases the damage taken by 5%. Next ability is going to be the one we're going to always use before a fight, and that is Shadowy Disguise in the Shadow Tree. Here we go invisible for 3 seconds, and then when we attack someone within 3 seconds of using it, it's going to be a guaranteed crit strike. So if you jump in with an ambush, that is going to be an instant critical strike guaranteed. If you want to initiate with a heavy attack, which I think is the best way to initiate with this build, then you're going to get a guaranteed heavy attack. Heavy attack straight into surprise attack, bang, big damage. Heavy attack straight into your ultimate, big damage. Your enemy is on the back foot at that point. I use this all the time. This is an amazing ability. You should not do a build with a Nightblade without using this. And next we have our heal. This is in the Assault Tree under Alliance Wars. Resolving Vigor here. Heals ourselves, gives us a little dot, and it also gives us a little bit of physical and spell resistance as well for 20 seconds. It's not much, but it is definitely a nice ability to have. I also wouldn't run this build without it because it is just so great. Your potions can heal you, but this you can just use it as long as you've got stamina. You can use this. Duck out of a fight if you need to. Go invisible. Get around a corner. Use this. Reset and then come back in the fight. An amazing ability. Gotta have this. So, last but not least, for our ultimate, we're using Incapacitating Strike. This is an amazing ability. So basically, just for having it slotted, when you attack an enemy with your light or heavy attack, you're going to regenerate stamina and magicka just by having it on your hotbar. So that's really good for sustain. If you cast it with more than 120 ultimate, you're going to stun the enemy, so always make sure you've got 120 before you use this ability. You can use this ability to initiate if you want as well. So next up we're going to look at our passives, and first of all we are going to look at our dual wield tree here, and we are using 3 for this build. So increased weapon and spell damage by 6% of the offhand's weapon damage here, and we take that twice. Dual wield expert. Then we have ruffian, so 15% damage bonus when attacking stunned immobilized targets. That's for obvious reasons going to be amazing for this build, so definitely take that. And then we have the dagger passive here on twin blade and blunt, so you're increasing your crit chance by 812. Next, we are going to look at the class passives, and we're basically taking all of the ones in assassination here. So increase your physical and spell penetration against enemies you're flanking by nearly 3,000 penetration. Great. Increase duration of the stun from sneak by 100%. When an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, you restore magicka and stamina. That's the executioner. That's going to help us for our sustain. We then have pressure points. Increase your weapon and spell critical strike rating by 438 for each assassination ability slotted, so that is great. And then we have hemorrhage. Increase your crit damage done by 10%. Dealing crit damage grants you and your group minus savagery, increasing your weapon critical rating by 1314 for 20 seconds. Next, we are going to take some shadow ones as well. Increases your health, stamina, and magicka recovery by 15% on refreshing shadows here. That's great. Then we're going for shadow barrier. Casting a shadow ability grants you major resolve for 6 seconds, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 6,000. Duration is increased by 25% for each piece of heavy armor. We're not actually wearing any, but if you were to take one piece there, that would certainly give us an addition to that as well, but not a big deal. Dark Vigor here, increase your max health by 3% for each shadow ability slotted. So here we have 2, which gives us 6%, which is great. It's going to increase our survivability of what little we have. So Dark Veil is the last passive here. Increase the duration of your non-invisibility based shadow abilities by 2%. Really good. It just affects everything so nicely with this build. You have to take this ability. Next up, let's look at the armor passive. So effectively, because we're wearing medium armor, we're going to get a ton of stamina regeneration and critical strike damage from this here. So we're going to take all of these. I'm not going to tell you all of them, but they basically give us some really, really nice stuff here. And then we're going to also take some light as well. Let's have a look. So we've got a little bit of penetration here, just for having one piece of light. Weapon and spell crit rating as well. It's 200. That amounts to about 1%, by the way. So we've also got some resistance. But yeah, just take these because we're wearing one piece. Good to have if you can. But if you can't afford them, if you don't have the points, I would skip these. This is not going to be a big deal if you miss these out. So next up, we are looking at the vampire tree. And this is really important for this build. So become a vampire. And here we are interested only in the passives. We don't use any of the actives. So here we have Darkstalker. Decrease the time it takes to enter sneak. So if you're just going into sneak just naturally without using disguise, it's a lot quicker. Ignores the movement speed penalty of sneak as well. So when you're walking, not running because that'll take you out of sneak, but if you're walking, you will not be crawling on the ground like normal. You'll just be walking like you would normally would. So that's great. Darkstalker there, take that definitely. Next we have Strike from the Shadows. This synergizes so well with the Stygian set because this is going to go off as well as Stygian, giving you over 600 increased weapon and spell damage. This one lasts for 6 seconds, so you're basically this is gonna come off as soon as you jump on an opponent. This is a really great passive here, Strike from the Shadows. And we are only going to stage 2 here, so these two passives are all you need. And then of course we have our racial passives. Whatever race you are, take these. The races are all different, but of course you're going to want to have these. They're all really powerful. So that's it for our skills and our passives. Next up, we're going to move on to our food and our potions. So first of all, we are going to be using the lava foot soup and salt rice, and this is going to give us maximum stamina and some stamina recovery. For me, in my opinion, this is my favourite food. It's also very cheap as well. And then for our potion, we are going to be using Tri-Stat Potion or Essence of Health with the Tri-Stat on it here, you can see. So this is going to give us recovery for the stats as well as basically topping them up really nicely across the board. So this is really great potion to have. And also, if I can just ask you guys kindly, if you're liking this video so far, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, that'd help me out a great bunch. Thank you very much. Next, we are going to move on to our Munderstone. Now, there is actually a few options here. In fact, there are many options, but my favourite three are going to be either the Lover, which I am using now, and this is giving me penetration, and it scales with your Divines trait as well. So the more Divines traits you have, the more penetration you're going to get. So that is the Lover Munderstone, giving us penetration. Other options would be the Thief, which gives us crit rating, or the Shadow, which gives us crit damage. So they are great options as well. So that's it for the Munderstones. And then we can have a look at our stats here. So you can see we have just under 15,000 magicka, just over 22,000 HP. We have 30,000 stamina, just over, and you can see we've dumped all of our points into stamina. You can put a few into health if you wish to have a bit more survivability. Our recovery is sitting at about 1,700 here. We've got some penetration on the go. Our crit rate is sitting at about 44%. I wouldn't want it to be any lower really, but you could lower it if you want to. 5,300 spell and weapon damage here, and this is going to increase when we're proccing our sets. In fact, all of this is going to increase pretty much. We're going to get guaranteed crits. We're going to increase our penetration as well during the fights. So that is it for the stats pretty much. And lastly, we are going to talk about rotation quickly. So first of all, what you want to be doing is making sure you're invisible always. Unless you know there's no enemies for a long while, then you can just run about the map doing whatever. We are level 2 vampirism, so we're not getting sneaking just from running for 3 seconds, but you want to stay hidden when enemies are nearby, and when you see an enemy you want to go for, first of all you're going to put a mark on them, then you're going to go disguise, and then you can jump in with ambush if you want, and then weave your special attack, your surprise attack in with your light, using incapacitating strike when you can do that as well, or you can do a much better rotation if you are close to enemies and you can stay hidden long enough, and that's by basically being invisible, coming in with a heavy attack straight into surprise attack, or heavy attack straight into incapacitating strike right there. That's going to be your biggest damage, and then after you've finished up with that, you can carry on with your light weave into surprise attack. But you always want to keep that mark on your target for sure. That is not going to be a problem because it lasts a minute. The only issue with this is if you're in a fight with multiple enemies and you don't know which one to go for, it can get a bit confusing, in which case you might have to just forget about what mark is doing and just go for the obvious target. As well, you might also even want to pop your vigor as you go into a fight too. Don't forget to do that if you can. Depends how much stamina you've got. And don't forget also that Mark uses Magicka as well as your disguise. So with this in mind, if you see that you are going very low in Magicka, at this point you need to get out of the fight, because I cannot go invisible now, and you are probably going to end up dead if that happens. So when you're getting low on Magicka, get out of the fight, reset, hide behind something, save point, and get your stats back. Use your potion if you have it, if you haven't used it in the fight already. Get vigor if you need to heal up, and then check your stamina and your Magicka and get them back up to a place where you can enter the fight again. Reset basically when you need to, but without Magicka you cannot do that. You run out of Magicka, you are dead. Another great thing you can do with your disguise is if you come in to a fight, you can start playing mind games with the enemy. If there's more than one of them, like if there's 2 on a flag, you can go invisible and then start attacking another one and really mess with their heads that way, and that way you can confuse them, and then you can, even if you know what you're doing or they're not really tanky or whatever, you can get a kill on both of them. This build it can take some getting used to. Don't get disheartened if you die a lot, if you are not used to using melee Nightblade with invisibility and all that stuff. It just takes some learning, but once you get used to it, it is incredibly rewarding in the Battlegrounds, and I love it a lot. So that is it. If you made it this far, I'd like to say a big thank you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like this. It would help my channel out a lot. I also do videos where I talk more in detail about my builds, as well as other Elder Scrolls Online content, guides, discussions, etc. Please feel free to ask questions or say hi in the comments, as I do reply to all of them when I can. Thanks again, and see you next time.